Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Keith Shewchuk here once again. It's been a while since I did an interview, and tonight I just happened to have the opportunity to sit down with Don Maurice. Don is a musician that played with the Turner Lake band called the Rebels way back before even I got into the music. And I'm very fortunate enough to be able to sit down with you tonight in Prince Albert and him to give me the time to interview him. I really appreciate that, Don. Thank you so much. I met Don in 1988. I was 13 years old. I was playing a dance at the old mission hall in La Loche on Main Street, and him and his band pulled up one night. And I believe it was Harold that told me, Keith, you should let these guys play. And sure, I said. They came up, and boy, did they ever rock and roll that house that night. I still remember. I was just young learning, and these guys were like veterans getting up on the stage and showing the young guys how it's done. Back then, that's when I first met you, so maybe you could share some of your history. So Don, my interviews here, I usually like to talk and ask people like share some of their musical history and some of their stories with us. So first of all, how old are you, Don?
60.
60 years old now. So back in 1988, that was 30 years ago. So you would have been 30 years old when I met you, and I was 13.
I still feel 30.
Yeah. So with that, Don, just to get started there, just to get us in the interview mood here, maybe you could tell us how you got started in music and maybe how old you were. Who influenced you, you know?
I think Freddie and them really influenced us. Me and Nuno.
Freddie Moore?
Freddie Moore. And so we got Bushman's dad to get us instruments. He had a store, eh? Yeah.
Was that the very first time playing? But when you started playing guitar and stuff like that, how old were you?
I was probably about 14, 15, just fooling around. I didn't know how that much either. Probably same as now.
Earlier you mentioned a couple of people you used to watch when we were outside.
Oh, that was Leonard Larson, Sonny Larson. That was years ago, back about 64, 65.
So when you were young, you remember watching them play too?
Watching, and I still remember that song, Hanky Panky. Yeah, it's always sad. I want to play too, I was thinking.
Yeah, but anyways, and then from there, did you teach yourself how to play, or did somebody teach you?
We taught each other. No. Because I used to stay with them when I was a kid. Anyway, I remember the first gig we got was in La Loche. $150.
Really?
Yeah, there was three of us. There was me, Bushman, and Nuno.
Do you remember what year that might have been?
Probably 76 or 77.
Wow, I would have been just like 3 years old.
Yeah. And me and Nuno were on a canoe, and we're out in the lake, and the bushman's running down the shore trying to call us there. We got a gig. Well, we pulled into the shore, and I don't know who we hired. We hired somebody to take us. We only had one set of column speakers and we had no bass player. Never did have a bass player. Just had lead and rhythm and drums. So we played there that night. It was a sports day, I think. Holy shit, and there's some people from...
Was that the Animal Hall?
Yeah.
Right on Main Street, the old Animal Hall.
Yeah, there were some people from McMurray, big guys. We were just kids, eh? They made us play till 3, 4 in the morning, but we were scared to stop too.
You guys better keep playing, they said.
We were just playing away, just sweat coming down. I don't know how many times we sang our songs over and over. Finally, they let us go.
That must have been quite the memory.
Yeah, we just had some good times.
So when you started your band with those, who was all in that first Turner Lake band? You said they were called the Rebels?
Yeah.
And how did you get that name?
Freddie Moore.
Freddie gave it to you, eh?
Gave it to us, yeah. We started for about a year, just me, Nuno, and Bushman. And then Elvis joined us. When we went to our gig to Stony Rapids, he came with us. And we kept him ever since. But anyway, we used to play in the Loche because I was doing weekends there. So we had dances every Thursday because I couldn't play on the weekend. I remember we used to party all the time, and we're partying at Russell and Carl Mungran, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Downstairs there. We had all our instruments there, and boys, they started a fight. Somebody was going to hit me, and Carl's mom was in front of me. I think it was Carl going to hit me. And Carl's mom was in front of me. I grabbed her, I put her in front of me. He nailed his mom. The fight was over, but I was just worried about that old lady.
Wow.
Crazy times we had.
So when you were jamming back in those days, did you ever play like in the Buffalo Bar or
We played in Buffalo, yeah.
Where else have you played? Like in the area?
Regina, PA here. Played in a lot of places. Cumberland. But this, when we played these other places up south, we were going around with Marius Cummings, but it's still the same players, eh? Me, Alfred. Elvis wasn't with us. We had another lead guitar player.
Maurice Cummings, yeah. I remember him when I was a kid. He used to live in Hartpill apartment right there. I used to walk by him every day going to school when I was going to St. Mark's School, because I attended school here in PA till I was like 10, and he used to always play the violin. And I didn't know he was a friend of my dad's too. And then now that I'm growing up, I knew who he was, and I've seen him play at dances. And he must have been a really good musician to play with back then.
Oh yeah, it was lots of fun playing with him. He got me and Nunu, Bushman, and we got another guy from Regina, Irvin Papaquash. Oh, he was a good lead guitar player, deadly. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So we played all over. We went to Buffalo one time, played in the bar there. So that was when I was living in town here.
So how many years did you play with that band for before you decided to move on with life or whatever?
I don't know, about 4 or 5 years.
4 or 5. Is that when Baldy took over singing? Or you were singing you were the lead singer that whole time?
Yeah, but when we moved, when they stayed in Stony Rapids, we just shut her down. And then when they moved back, Nono and Elvis, that's when I played with them for, I don't know, a couple of months, and then I moved on. Baldy took over. And he's been there ever since. I play once in a while when I'm with them. Something to do.
Oh yeah, good old memories, eh? I mean, you never seem to. Once you have the music in you, you kind of never seem to lose it. Just like when we sat down earlier.
Riding a bike, yeah.
When we were talking earlier, I was telling you. You said Don had mentioned to me that he hadn't played guitar in a long time, and he hadn't sang in a long time. So I kind of said. Every singer at least has one song that they would remember all the words to or something, and sure enough, he pulled one out for us. So I really appreciate you jamming that song for me on the camera and jamming with me. We're in PA here, and I had to borrow a guitar, and he borrowed a guitar because just out of the blue, I called him up and asked if he would do an interview with me, and he gladly did it. So we made it happen. So I'm really happy.
3 years since I sang, because I haven't drank in 3 years. That's the last time I usually sing with.
Well, congratulations. Drinking, I hope you can continue on with that, because it is a struggle,
It is a struggle.
It is a struggle, Sometimes those temptations come, and when they do, it's that's why they say take it one day at a time.
Yeah. Oh, I don't miss it anyway. Nothing to miss. Yeah. When I first started, there was no other young people, because we were only 17, 18 when I first started. There was no other young people that were playing, just us following Freddie and Fire. Then you guys come along, I think.
Well, we didn't come along till
after
the
a while,
mid-'80s. Yeah, that's when we were there.
But I never seen anybody else after us till you guys come along.
Well, we were young, yeah, because I was only 12, 13 years old when I started doing gigs. I actually played in Buffalo Bar when I was 13 years old, my first time.
I got you and your brother, I think, to play with us one time for a while. Get you guys up there anyway.
I remember that. You guys, That's something, you know, some musicians, when you come to their gigs, they don't want you on a stage, you know. But then there's some musicians that gladly say, here, you know. And I was young, so I kind of remember that. So I really thank you for giving me that opportunity, because the old Frank Chief on the reserve, he also gave me that opportunity to come up on stage and share.
Too.
Did you play with him too?
Yeah.
That must have been quite fun, because I really enjoyed his music back then. He
I
had
played
really
drums for him.
Really?
Yeah.
So you play more than the guitar then?
Well, just not crazy on drums, but I can follow along.
Okay. Do you play anything else? The bass?
Bass,
yeah.
yeah. And I think we went to Chard and played with him once. It was nice over there. Took a plane that time.
Yeah. So is there anything that you could think about that you'd like to share? Because I am making this little documentary, and I'm trying to gather up as many videos as I can. And I know I'm kind of slowly getting at it, and it's slowly coming along. And I'm just wondering if there's anything that you could think of that you'd really like to share, because you know, if you think about your grandchildren you were talking about earlier and stuff like that, you know, is there anything you'd like to share? Any stories or anything that you can remember?
No, there's too many stories that you don't want to hear. I can't tell them anyway. I'm following the Lord now, so I can't tell those stories. But I just want young people, if they really love music, you know, to just follow it like me and Nuno did. We just, you know, we'd have a job and then we'd save all our money to buy a guitar. We'd all chip in to buy one guitar, you know, just to get started.
You know, that just reminds me of me and my brother, because every cent that we got, we were just like, we gotta buy a foot pedal, we gotta buy a cord,
or
we
a
need
mic,
drumsticks or a mic or whatever it may be,
lights.
and you slowly build it up, eh?
Lights,
you got to invest in your product, I guess. Is what
you just gotta keep on following your little dream. Doesn't matter if people are going to laugh at you. It's your dream, and you follow it.
That's awesome.
And you'll have a hell of a good time. I know I did.
Do you remember some of the first songs you learned? Like back in the day, like what were some of the songs that you learned? Because I remember that one song we talked about earlier, Sunflower. Yeah.
Sunflower and
maybe name a few songs that you guys did back in the 70s.
Creedence and
what was the other one?
Creedence Clearwater Revival. We sang some of those. Beautiful Sunday, Candida, all those old songs. Honky Tonk Woman. Oh yeah, all those old ones. I think we only knew half the words and the rest we made up. Yeah. One time we were tuning up into La Loche and started dancing.
You were just tuning up.
Well, we had just have a lot of fun there.
So excited to hear the music, I guess.
Yeah.
Eh?
Oh yeah, that old Admiral House, boy. Deadly. Had some good times there.
So how old were you when you started your band? Like you mentioned in the 70s, so I don't even know how old you might have been there. Because I met you in 88, so you must have been about 20, 19, 18, 20. Yeah, you would have been early, just a young teenager too, eh?
Yeah, we started practicing for about a year, I guess. Maybe 6 months, I don't know, not very long anyway.
Were you ever able to jam with Northern Fire?
Yeah, they used to get us up there playing all the time. Just like we always got young people to go up, they got us to play.
So they kind of helped pass the torch and kind of get you into the music and encourage you and stuff like that. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it's always good to do that. So you do it and somebody else do it for you. And we do it for somebody, they'll do it for somebody. That's how it goes. Eh?
Yeah. So back then, how did you guys travel? Were you guys using the old half-ton and throw everything on the back type thing?
Somebody had a vehicle, it doesn't matter if it was an old wagon, we somehow managed to get them in there and all squeeze in the front and the back and go. Or else we'd hire somebody. If we got paid $150 and we hire somebody for $50, we make $100.
And you still, because you love the music. I
We
guess
love
it
the
wasn't
music.
the money, it was just the love of the music, right?
Well, them days too, 150 was lots, eh? But we started getting more and more. And pretty soon we started renting the hall in La Loche because I got along good. I think it was Doug Gailey used to run that place. And we used to rent it off him.
I think he was
$100
involved in recreation way
Yeah.
back then, eh? Yeah.
Is he still there?
He's the administrator. He used to be the administrator. He was the administrator for about 30 years. So
Yeah.
around that time, he was. I think he was in recreation.
Yeah.
Now he's our method manager in the Losh.
Yeah. Yeah, he's the one that got us, let us use the hall.
It's pretty,
Then we'd get somebody to watch the door. I don't know how honest they were.
I had the same experience when I used to rent the mission hall when I was 13 years old, and the priest used to let us rent the hall,
Yeah.
and we get friends or family to run the door,
Yeah.
and then you kind of got to bank on
You
their
gotta
honesty.
keep checking, eh?
Yeah, yeah, but
Yeah,
it's
but-
kind of funny how we have things in common there.
Yeah, everybody band goes through that, I think. As long as you got to make friends here to get somewhere.
You know, because when I started, you were already had been there
Gone.
for 10 years, you know, and you know, because I was like 3 or 7 years or whatever, because I was like in 78, 77, I was just 3, 4 years old, you know,
Oh, yeah,
so,
yeah.
and I met you when I was like 13, so it was, you were paving that trail for everybody in that area, you know. There was
Yeah.
Northern Fire, there was you guys,
Oh,
and
and then there's a lot of bands.
North
coming up.
Wind. Is there any other bands that you can think of back then that you remember besides Northern Fire? And
I remember some from Isla Cross and some from, what you call that?
was that
La
night?
Loche.
Was that Nightfall?
Yeah,
Or did-
Nightfall,
was
I
it called
think.
Nightfall?
Also, La Loche, Kenny Petit, Kenny,
Ken Roth.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Flamebusters.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they were around too, eh?
So,
What were some of your musical influences when you were younger, like listening on the radio or maybe somebody you saw? I know you mentioned Northern Fire and Fairly, but
yeah,
what kind of music did you like or listen to?
I
Or
like
what kind
country rock, and I like the Stones too, listening to
The Rolling Stones. What are some of the music that you listened to when you were a younger teenager?
This is mostly rock and roll. When
Yeah?
I was, we didn't have TVs back then, eh? Usually radio. And records. Yeah, you walk around, you don't just have a little cassette tape, right? You walk into your house, they know what you have, eh? Like, took a big album, Rolling Stones, my mother were just looking at me. I call her my mother, eh?
Yeah.
I used to stay in Nunu's mom. What's that? She said. Oh, my baby's crying.
Yeah. Anyhow, we'll wrap it up here. I really appreciate it, Don. But before we sign off here, I'd really like to have you given an opportunity to give a message to any young up-and-coming musician or somebody that may be just starting into the music business. Any kind of message or words of encouragement or any words of wisdom that you might be able to give them that might be listening.
Just don't quit. If you really love what you're doing, just don't quit. Even if people laugh at you and they make fun of you, just don't worry about them. It's your dream. It's not theirs. Just go out there and have fun. And if you go out there and have fun, you're gonna have fun. If you go enjoy yourself, everybody else is gonna have fun too. That's all.
Thank you so much, Don. It was such a pleasure, and I thank you for taking the time.
You bet.
Bye.
Bye.